Good evening, everybody. Monday Morning Quarterback, episode 105. Sorry I missed you last week. We intended to have this episode last week, and we just had all sorts of stuff go awry on us. So wasn't able to be live last week, but excited to be back tonight. Just got back from the Pit Logic Carolina Clash. That was an awesome quarter midget race. Meant to happen in March, and then kind of this whole pandemic hit, and wasn't able to go off as scheduled. So unfortunately, we weren't able to do a lot of the stuff we had planned for the race. Chance Crum was going to come out and really help customers with Pit Logic and do a lot more of that, but we weren't able to do all that. But we still had a display and got to meet and talk to a lot of customers. I think we won 7 or 8 classes, so great weekend. Hunter Wise picked up a couple. Max Reeves won Light 160. Braden Jones won Senior Animal. That poor kid led about every race and seemed to get ran into or have problems with with lap cars or whatever. So I'm glad Braden got one because he certainly deserved more than one. Who else won? Ryder Honeycutt won Blue Rookie, and Gunnar Pio won Senior Honda, and Case James won both juniors. So really good weekend down there, and CSI is well represented. And man, those kids down there are fast. They are very fast, very good at their home track, and a place I would like to take Hudson back to race more because they got it going on down there. Beautiful facility, and the kids are fast. So this week is the Robbie Stanley Memorial, so I'll be there doing quarter midget stuff. I'm going to start the week up at Circus City Wednesday night. I know they're racing up there tonight. They kind of did an impromptu race tonight since a lot of people were in town. We'll be taking the shock trailer up there Wednesday. I will do Wednesday night, and T-Bone will cover the rest of the week up there at the Non-Wing World Championship. A big 600 micro sprint race. Customers from all over the country are here for that. I believe it pays $10,000 to win. Don't quote me on that, but excited to be in 2 different places this week, and then next week I think we're 2 different places again. We got Sprint Week kicking off, Midwest Thunder at Kalamazoo, and then we'll finish up Sprint Week the next week, and then we are heading to PA for Micro Week. So exciting stuff going on. Tonight we're going to cover the common causes for a poor handling race car. So we have a broad spectrum of people that watch the show each week, so we will try to cover all the classes of cars that I'm well-versed in, and some of the common things that I've seen go wrong over my 25 years or so working on race cars. I'm a year older today. Thank you, everybody, for the happy birthday wishes. So yeah, I've seen a little bit of everything. I've made some mistakes, and so I just wanted to kind of cover those because that's a common question we get, is customers are really fighting and struggling with something, and so several of these things are things that I ask them and double check to make sure these things are right before we dive into more in-depth setup stuff that could be wrong. So Mark Ashcraft, yeah, month of money for the micros, 20 grand to win last week or 2 weeks ago, 10,000 to win up in at Logansport this week or this past weekend. I think it's another 10 grand here, and I'm not sure what the Clay Cup pays this year. It might be 10 grand. Out in Washington, yeah, there's a lot of big paying micro races. I'm bummed to not be going to Clay Cup this week. I had a great time out there last year. That is a really awesome micro track, kind of nestled up there in the northwest near the Canadian border. Super cool track, great people, and we have a ton of customers up there. So I had a great time going up to Clay Cup last year, and I'm missing not going this year because everything else is going on. But hopefully next year. One year I'm going to take Hudson up there to race a junior sprint. They have a great junior sprint class up there. And so, yeah, Clay Cup's awesome, and good luck to all of our micro customers and 1200 customers and junior sprint customers up there. And sorry I can't be there. Our good buddy Kyle Canoyer, who did some training with us over the winter and started KLR suspension with Brock Lemley, whose family actually owns Deming. He's doing a great job tuning guys' suspension and fixing busted parts, and his shop is literally a stone's throw from the track. Like, literally, I stayed there last year, and you can walk through the woods from his shop and get to Deming, right into their pit area. So if you run into an issue at Deming this week, have no fear. Kyle can get you fixed up, whether it be something needing repaired or whatnot. So hopefully you don't. Hopefully it's a smooth week and whatnot. So Eric, will something besides a D1 take home the win? They're pretty hot right now, and they didn't win Clay Cup last year. Jared Peterson won in a Farrell, and Jared Peterson won last week. So new customer for us. So we're excited. Jared won last week, and he looks good to defend his title, I guess, because he hasn't raced much this year, and he jumped right back in and picked up a feature win. So the D1 cars will be well represented up there, I assume. They were fast last year, but Peterson he wired it. Deming's his home track, and he's always a front runner, and I don't believe he'd ever won Clay Cup because one neat thing about Clay Cup, sorry to get off on a tangent, we'll jump on the topic, is Clay Cup is one of the few micro tracks you'll go to that it is like sold out, like with fans. And when Peterson won, that crowd erupted like a Knoxville Nationals crowd when somebody beats Donnie Schatz. So it was really cool. He wasn't on our shocks last year, so I was bummed to lose the race, but had to feel good for him, as excited as the crowd got into it. So I think he'd maybe just missed out on a few Clay Cups prior. If Crumbs are tuned in, they could probably shed light on that. But I'm pretty certain last year was his first one, the way the crowd reacted when he won. So really, really cool. So anyhow, as I roll through this, if you have a question, fire away. I'll be happy to answer it. Always, if I miss your question, best way to get a hold of me is email. I have that with me at all times. If you're going to Facebook message, my personal one is probably just as good as the CSI one, because for some reason I get a notification when you message me on my personal, but on the CSI one I have to look at it a few times a day. It doesn't notify me. So those two ways, email, phone call, text message, whatever, more than happy to always answer your questions. So the number one thing I see when a race car is ill handling, and this is from a quarter midget to a sprint car, everything in between, is it has not been properly squared. So on a quarter midget, that could be, and this is everything all encompassing with squaring your race car. So with a quarter midget, it could be your bird cage is out of time, rear axle isn't squared properly, caster isn't set right in the front end. A pet peeve with quarter midgets is most people don't actually front scrub to get their caster on the right front. They just go zero off the arm. Well, I'm pretty sure every axle isn't made the same. Actually, I know they're not. So going zero off the arm might get you 5 degrees of caster on some axles and 3 on others. You don't know without actually putting a caster gauge on the right front and running it through the arc. So those are some things on the quarter midgets. On sprint cars and midgets, that rear end not being square, the ladder being bound up, the torque ball being bound up, all of those things will cause a bind in the suspension travel and will prevent the car from handling the way it should. So number one thing, are we positive the car is square? Okay. Are we positive the car is square? So that would be the first thing. The number two thing is the baseline setup is just out in left field. It's out in left field, and we need to kind of rein it back in and get to more of a common setup. I was listening to Dale Jr. Download, if any of you guys listened to that podcast. It had Mark Martin on it. Really good listen. I think it's 2-part, and I'm not done listening to it, but Mark said some interesting things on there, and my good buddy John Randall and I have been arguing about this. Not arguing, but going back and forth. Is he always asks me about reverse split, in a micro, and now they're in a sprint car. And I just gave him my personal experience that when I drove, I never liked reverse split. And when I was a crew chief, I never had success with reverse split. I know people do, but I personally didn't. And I'm more of a positive split to even bars when it gets slick. And John threw a jab at me this weekend. Positive split, or a reverse split, car worked better than it ever has. I just replied with, well, I'm glad you found what made your car work. And the point to that was, there's the most wild off-the-wall setups will work sometimes, and you just don't know without trying. And the Mark Martin reference was, he talked about building an asphalt late model, and he was running a lot of spring split in the back of the car, and he ended up adding more left rear spring and taking the right rear spring totally off the car. So this is a coil-over car, and he took the right rear spring totally off the car. And he said he kind of wasn't sure at first himself, took a few slow laps, and then when he got up to speed, best handling short track car he ever had, broke the track record at Winchester. At Winchester, of all places, he took the right rear spring off and broke the track record by like 0.3 of a second or something. So the moral of the story is you can go a lot of different places with your setup, but you have to have a good baseline to prevent just to have a good starting spot. You have to have a good handling car before you worry about tweaking shocks and trying different things. I would never recommend for anybody to start experimenting without having a good baseline. So 2 more things that I see all the time, and then I'll start answering your questions, is bad set of torsion bars. So this obviously wouldn't be for quarter midgets. For quarter midgets, it could be the shocks haven't been maintained in forever. We do see that a lot. Cars get passed down from, they get sold multiple times, and a guy says, oh yeah, shocks have a season on them. Guy buys it, runs the car, kid outgrows it, sells it to the next guy. Next thing you know, we got a guy calling, man, I just can't get my car going, and we look up the shocks, and we haven't serviced them in 5 years. So that will make a quarter midget ill handling. But on a midget sprint car micro, if you flip hard and you land on a corner and you feel that arm twisted way more than it normally would, throw the bar away. We have a torsion bar dyno. We dyno torsion bars. Unless you're local, I wouldn't recommend shipping a torsion bar all the way across the country that you've flipped with and you think might be bad, because chances are it is. If you ever snap a rod end off of a torsion arm, strip a stop because of an accident, chances are you've taken that torsion bar past the yield point and it will never work the same again. Put new bars in. I try to tell folks that torsion bars are like tires. It's a disposable item on your race car. It wears out just like a tire. You just can't see when it wears out. So typically, average conditions, 20, 25 races, new bars will liven your car up. All of a sudden, when you're putting turns in the car, it's reacting, it's lively again, and it's working correctly. So torsion bars. The other thing that I wasn't super aware of until we bought the steering repair business from Kevin Thomas and been working with him, and now we're repairing steering gears in one part of the shop every day, is a worn steering gear can cause all sorts of havoc. Again, this isn't quarter midgets or micros, but if you are putting steering into the car and the front tires aren't turning, you're going to come back and tell your crew chief, man, this thing is tight. You're turning the wheel way more than you normally would, but in reality, the front tires aren't turning in the same relation as you are with the steering wheel, because the steering gear itself is worn out, the pump is weak, etc., etc. So a worn out steering gear can cause you havoc in an ill-handling race car. So that's something that should be serviced once a season if you're running 20, 25 races. If you're running more than that, it might need to be done more frequently. Okay, let me see what questions I have, and if you have more, keep firing away, and I will get them answered. Eric Long, shock setup was great. Randall was on a 5. Okay, I'm picking on Randall tonight. I don't ever remember building John Randall a 5-valve quarter midget shock, but maybe I did. I'm getting old. I don't know. But I know Chase was faster than hell there. He was really fast at the Grand. So if it was, I don't know. I could probably go back and look through my build notes. Mark Ashcraft, can you fix left rear tire chatter with shock, or is something else off? I would say no, unless the shock is worn out, leaking, has a dead spot in it. Otherwise, I would think not. I think that would be more of a crossweight issue or something like that. John's chiming in. It was a 5 valve, so I don't know. I don't ever remember building that, but I believe him. Kevin, so Jared won it in 2007, so it had been 12 years or whatever. The crowd went bonkers. Rick Remore, is there a shock adjustment that causes or prevents biking? In a quarter midget, you can take rebound out of the right side shocks, and that will not load the tire as hard and can prevent biking. Typically, biking can be cured by lowering the left side, scooting the right side tires out, lowering the ride height of the car overall. I know Rick personally here is referring to North Carolina. Them, along with some others, heavy drivers had a fit from out of town, just trying to keep the cars calmed down. That track is super high grip and just a gnarly track to get around. Since John Randall chimed in, maybe he can post the picture of Chase when we went to North Carolina the first time. Had a junior Honda on 2 wheels, like in nothing flat. So I know it is a challenging track, but I know we had some really fast heavy kids with straight valve shocks on the right, so they were doing some different stuff to their car to free it up. In your instance, I don't know if you were on wide right side wheels, like a 6.5 right front and an 8.5 right rear. That maybe could have helped to stiffen the sidewall a little bit. And if we were to go back, maybe we just need to take some rebound out of your right side shocks. The thing with North Carolina that's a challenge is you need grip. Since you're going in a big circle and it is flat, the right side tires have to stick. So it's that balance between having enough lateral grip and not having too much where the car wants to bike. And so I get concerned when you start taking a bunch of rebound out and stuff that we're going to get the car so unhooked that it doesn't matter. Yeah, now it doesn't bike, but it don't make any speed either and doesn't turn great and stuff like that. So I'm going to go back to North Carolina at some point this year and do some more testing once my little guy's in junior Honda, because I think there's a lot to be learned at that track that can work at some other tracks, but you just have to spend some time there. The Storm guys, who are good customers of ours, they spent multiple days down there, and obviously it paid off. I don't remember how many classes they won, 5 or 6, but they got their stuff dialed in, and it was just a matter of getting it going. I think if you asked Curtis or Aaron, they'll tell you, like, they were in the same boat as you, Rick. Like, they shoved that car off, and it was biking on the second lap, but they were there. They had a whole week to figure it out, and not just a few hours like we did. So I'm sorry you didn't have a great trip. Hopefully you still enjoyed the family time and whatnot. And if you are to go back, we can try to get the car a little bit better. So Bobby Z, no problem. Glad we could help you out. So does anybody else have any questions? Episode 105 on my birthday, and happy to answer any questions you guys have. And we hope to see you at a racetrack. We're hitting a bunch of them here the next couple weeks, so hopefully we'll get to see you guys soon. So, yeah, again, we're gonna have the shock trailer at the Non-Wing World Championship this week. I will be there for a night. Then at the Stanley race, T-Bone will be up there. So if you're at the Stanley race, we won't be able to fix shocks on site, but I will have some stuff and could grab something from the shop if you need it, whatnot. And then next week is Sprint Week and Midwest Thunder at Kalamazoo. And then Sprint Week's kind of 2 weeks for sprint cars. It starts next week, goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I believe Monday is off, and then maybe Monday and Tuesday's off. I can't remember. And then it picks back up and finishes out the week. So, Eric, thank you very much for that. If there is no other questions, we will sign off. Again, thank you all for tuning in. I'm a few episodes behind as far as getting them uploaded to YouTube, but that is on my to-do list tomorrow. So For your friends that aren't Facebookers and they like to watch us on YouTube, we will have through episode 105 uploaded by the end of the day tomorrow. So if you go over to our YouTube page, there's a ton of great videos. Please like and subscribe so we can continue to grow that platform as well. One more question. Mark, when adjusting rebound on the left rear, I often not sure when full stiff is good or not. Typically, we don't ever go full stiff. I think that you get too much clamp in it at that point, and then it kind of maybe wants to hold the tire out of the track. So if the track slicks off, we're going to add rebound to the left rear for wing racing and add rebound to both rear shocks. And so we would go stiffer, but I don't know that I would close it all the way. I believe you have twin tube stuff, Mark, so you might want to be 8 or 10 clicks open when the track gets slick. So non-wing, we would maybe take a little bit of rebound out of the left rear and add some to the right rear, but we wouldn't open it a whole lot. So hope that answers your question, and I hope you guys all have a fantastic week. We hope to see you at a racetrack soon. Take care.